Hello! In this video, we will discuss the cool news regarding PlayStation 5, namely native backward compatibility with PS3 games. We've been waiting for this for a long time, and maybe it will happen after all. Let's go! At launch, the PlayStation 5 was only backwards compatible with its predecessor, the PlayStation 4. But starting in 2022, some games from the PS1, PS2, and PSP began appearing on the console. There is still no backwards compatibility with the PS3, which is primarily due to the difficulty of emulating the Cell chip. Cell is an internal development of Sony with a unique architecture, which is very cool. But this uniqueness could play a cruel joke on the company if Sony does make backward compatibility with PS3 games. Let us remember that Sony is constantly criticized by the gaming community for the lack of backward compatibility with games from its previous gaming platforms. Let's be honest, Sony partially adds ports of its old games from the PS2, PS1, PS3 consoles. But these games are sorely few in number, and these are only digital copies of games. And in the case of PS3 games, only cloud playback is available with a very noticeable input lag. That is, you cannot take your PlayStation 2 or PS3 disc, insert it into the console, and start playing. You can't even use your disc as a digital key to download a finished image of the game, as is implemented on Xbox Series consoles.
What the fuck happened?
Plus, the quality of playback of these ports from previous generations leaves much to be desired. However, recently, various rumors and insiders have increasingly appeared that Sony may be working on launching backward compatibility of PlayStation 3 games on PS5. Moreover, without using cloud data transfer. This indirectly overlaps with a previous rumor that Sony was going to turn off the PlayStation 3 digital store this year. And we heard the first possible confirmation that Sony is working on backwards compatibility for PS3 games during the Xbox Era podcast, where an insider under the nickname Spatial Nick said that he had heard rumors that Sony was working on providing selective backwards compatibility for PlayStation 5 for PlayStation 3 games. The insider clarified that this is not about full backward compatibility. Most likely, as in the case of PS1, PSP, and PS2 games, the company will manually select and add only selected titles to the Classics catalog on PS5. When the insider was asked to clarify whether Sony would apply any improvements to games, similar to the technology used by Microsoft for Xbox 360 games, Special Nick was unable to give any clear answer. According to him, he does not have such information. From this insight, we can conclude that emulation of the PlayStation 3 will not be complete, but will be limited to only selected titles, as is currently happening with some PlayStation Portable and PlayStation 2 games added to the library of PS Plus Premium Classics. But Nick is not the only one who reported that Sony is working on backward compatibility, albeit partial. Following Special Nick, Jeff Grubb spoke about native emulation of PlayStation 3 games on PlayStation 5. In his Game Mess Mornings podcast, he said that back in early 2024, he heard that Sony had been working on its own PlayStation 3 emulator for a long time and expected that the company would announce it soon, but this did not happen. And the latest confirmation today about the possible development of native emulation of PS3 games on the PS5 console is as follows. Shortly after the insider's statements, curious netizens noticed a fresh patent filed on June 27th by the new console's chief architect, Mark Cerny, which describes software backward compatibility testing in asymmetry mode. We are talking about a method that allows the device to run in a synchronization test mode, purposefully causing asymmetry, which may have something to do with the Cell processor, which distributed individual tasks among the cores, rather than all together, as in modern x86 chips. Using a compatibility layer for the PlayStation 5 that causes asymmetry could be nothing more than a way to make games from the PlayStation 3 work on the current generation console. It's worth noting that many patents don't always come to fruition, so this isn't a 100% guarantee yet. But it can be seen that Sony has clearly become more active in the area of backwards compatibility lately. But there are also those who are skeptical about the possible appearance of backward compatibility of PS3 games on PS5. It's very strange, but it's true. The editors of the technical portal Digital Foundry doubt that Sony will be able to implement an effective PlayStation 3 emulator into the PlayStation 5 console. They spoke about this in a weekly podcast, commenting on a fresh batch of rumors and insights that we talked about above. The key problem with Sony's 7th generation console has always been the cell processor, which, due to its complex architecture, has become a headache for developers. As a result, many ports of games from third-party developers were inferior in quality to the Xbox 360 versions. The main difficulty is that it will be problematic to correctly transfer games from the PS3 to the x86 architecture. Digital Foundry refers to the results of PC emulators like RPCSX. They predict that the easiest games to add to PS5 will be those that haven't made the most of Cell's capabilities. Therefore, we can expect some problems with the transfer of super exclusives from Sony, which used the capabilities of the Cell processor almost 100%. For example, games such as Killzone 2 and 3, Infamous, and others. However, Sony is experiencing problems with the operation of even less demanding PS2, PS1, and PSP emulators, so Digital Foundry remains pessimistic. Well, that's all the information about backward compatibility for now. I think we will be looking forward to the next news about the launch of native emulation of PS3 games on PlayStation 5. Because today, there are a large number of cool games that are locked in the basements of Sony PlayStation 3. Infamous, Metal Gear Solid 4, and Killzone 2, Killzone 3. A series of great shooters: Resistance, Puppeteer, Little Big Planet, Motorstorm, and many others. Being able to play these games on the PS5 would be a dream come true for many PlayStation fans. So let's hope all these rumors turn out to be true and we can comfortably play some great classics from the PlayStation 3 library. That's all for sure. Thank you for watching. See you soon in new videos. Stay in touch. Bye.